Welcome, Capricorn, to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 23rd of February for the Ascendant, the Sun, or the Moon. Going to share with you the upcoming themes of the week on screen, unpack the event chart on Monday. That always provides an influential backdrop for the whole 7 days. I'll then go through those influences frame by frame to give you a clear picture of what you can expect in terms of relationships, finance, energy, and work. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please do so now and help it to thrive. So it's a week when we have a big collective in the sign of Pisces. If you recall, at the start of the year, that was in your zodiac sign, giving you encouragement to really strut your stuff in 2026 in a more individualistic way. Then recently, the gathering of players moved into Aquarius, very much about converting the ideas that you started the year with into something more solid, firming up your life foundations. And Mars is the last player to join up with all of those planets, which have now moved into Pisces. And the chances are you are experiencing life speeding up. But Mars this week does clash with the edgy energy of Uranus. What is the implication of that for you personally, Capricorn? But also on Monday, the two planets of fortune forge a delightful alliance. But on Tuesday, a quarter moon is forged. That's where the sun and the moon are at right angles. It happens twice a month in the sky. That quarter moon looks to us like a half moon, but it does provide some energy, some edgy energy, and that is going to take you into the latter part of the week when Mercury goes retrograde on Thursday. Mercury retrogrades, as we know, can cause snags, delays, misunderstandings. For you, it's the third house, which can be things like digital media, it can be tech, it can be everyday quick communications. That's where the snares could occur. But the host is the dreamy, watery Pisces, where Mercury is not at its best. What's the implication? On the screen now, Capricorn, is your event chart. And of course, last week, your ruler, your sole domiciliary ruler, Saturn, came into an exact conjunction with the dreamy Neptune for the first time since they did in November 37 years ago. So there they are, right on your fourth house cusp. So despite the communication that's going to go on, particularly with Mars moving into Pisces and helping things to thrust forwards from the 2nd of March, how things feel is really going to be significant. So the conversation is important, particularly with Mercury in residence, but how it feels is really the point of reference for events going forward. Saturn's going to be in that area for the next 2 years. But what you do have at the start of this week is a delicious link between Venus and Jupiter, as I mentioned. Now, Jupiter is continuing to be retrograde through to the 11th of March, but he has been in your sector of relationships since May last year, but wasn't at the outset given an easy entry point because Saturn, in its initial 3-month visit to Aries, was there to inhibit the more expansive and fortunate energies of Jupiter. But Jupiter in your 7th house suggests that if relationships are meaningful, that 4th house energy is about feeling right, that link with Venus in the chatty 3rd house, but Venus in Pisces is exalted, as is Jupiter in Cancer. So if you communicate, but with feeling and sensitivity, there could be a connection made at the start of this week. It may be a romantic connection. It could be very positive indeed. But what Saturn has schooled you in over the last couple of years during his journey, particularly in the last phase from the 1st of September to the 14th of February, is that it is important to measure what you say, to really mean what you say. So as much as these energies can be flirty, playful, and frivolous, and very creative, Saturn's asking you to stay in touch with your emotional compass. Because Saturn, being your ruler, you're the 10th zodiac sign. So Saturn's very much about tradition, what's well established, what's prevailing, can be about experience, it can be about authority, but most of all, it's about the material world, whereas the sign of Aries is about new beginnings. So there may be something that is ripe for a fresh start in your situation. And the energy this week in Pisces is about the dialogue, but it's how you get there that's important. And that's the quality of the conversation. Now, because Mars has been within that Aquarius stellium that's now passed into Pisces, and will move to play catch up with these guys on the 2nd of March, as I mentioned, he's come into the end of his journey, which started 5.5 weeks ago. And during that time, you may have found yourself more determined to convert your talent into something that gives you a return, whether it's financially or whether it's a sense of your self-worth. But Mars, even though can be a fair-minded energy in Aquarius, still has that hustle bustle potential, but it's in a square with Uranus in the part of your situation which is to do with speculation and risk, the 5th house. And Mars can be impatient. If there is a conversation you're having this week and someone shares with you a buzzy idea, it may be a way of using a sideline to make some extra cash. I wouldn't charge towards it too quickly. And that's where Saturn can protect you, just slowing things down. You know yourself that if things happen step by step, systematically, it makes you feel comfortable. So, although there can be a glorious conversation on Monday between Venus and Jupiter, and Mars is pushing and priming you, particularly if there's someone you're attracted to go for it in a very direct way, just take it back to Saturn. It does have an echo, of course, of your core energy of shrewdness and just appraising things carefully. And that may seem rather anti-fun and anti-risk, but it also is brilliant for preserving yourself in a sensible fashion. However, what can also happen with that square between Mars and Uranus is there may be something that you would like to do that is very inspired and you don't want to hang around. You've really thought about it, and it seems to you that other people are dragging their heels. It may be that someone close to you is not very supportive, and that could be another dimension of the early energy of this week. But Tuesday's quarter moon does suggest, I think, that if you do try to go quicker than the energies are allowing this week, it's going to create a very brittle, tense vibe, because 3rd, 6th house energy gives us the desire to do something quickly in a very rapid, rapier-like way to get some kind of outcome which gives us a win, usually something tangible. And the outcome from that is that your nervous system could be over aroused, and that can make you edgy and perhaps a little irritable. But on Thursday, Mercury is retrograde through to the 20th of March. If you had been thinking about a new mode of transport, a new PC or a laptop, phone, maybe writing your own software program for an app, it doesn't mean to say that it won't work out well just because of Mercury's retrograde. That can be the prevailing view. I think it's an urban myth. I think what's much more likely is that we can encounter delays and frustrations, and things don't eventually ensue how we initially thought they would, but actually they ensue in the way that's really right for us. So do be aware that there could be quite a lot of conversation going backwards and forwards. But eventually, by the time that Mercury comes out of its post-retrograde shadow on the 9th of April, you'll probably get to where you really need to be. Now, by the end of this week, the advance in Venus meets the reverse in Mercury. The advance in Sun meets the North Node, also reversing. But that's very symbolic because as much as we have a Gemini quarter moon, communication, As much as the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, in detriment goes retrograde on Thursday, communication, in your third house, communication, as much as they may create some tension, uncertainties, and perhaps frustrations, that energy at the end of this week is an antidote to the beautiful energy that you move into this week between Jupiter and Venus. And I think that as long as you're measured and thoughtful in what you think and say, and respond and stay in touch with the anchoring energy of Saturn in your chart, by the end of the week, I think you will have gained traction. You may have had some delays and frustrations. There may have been some stress and edginess, but as long as you take it back to how things feel, that will guide you just as you need to be guided as this week draws to a close. So, to recount, when it comes to relationships, Jupiter and Venus definitely give you a chance. When it comes to interaction with your work, the energy in your third house suggests your ideas are going to be vivid and creative. But Mercury suggests around any business correspondence, particularly with the square between the sun and the quarter moon, the things could be a bit tense and brittle. Make sure you don't rush things to overlook a detail. And when it comes to your finances, just know that Pluto is going to transform things and Mars can still do so this week. But you'd have to ask yourself this question: are you going to take a punt and will you feel really comfortable with that? It could come off, but like any punt, it might not. Discover what March holds in store for you by clicking on your March deep dive video on the screen. Also on the second screen gives you the opportunity to join me at my new website. There's lots of exciting information. It's not generic like a lot of horoscope sites are. It's all written very much from the heart, and it would be great to have your company. And if you've yet to order your personal horoscope forecast and life roadmap combination at 50% off, if you get the natal version, please apply Astro 26 at the checkout and you'll get that 50% off. If you'd like to understand your soul or karmic version, the draconic option, please add at the checkout Draco 26.